Yo, yo, yo. All right. Well, we're improvising it a little bit today. We had a game plan. Fortunately, Son had a little bit of an emergency, some little personal things going on, so he's not gonna be able to make it. Um, but yeah, we had this scheduled to have a guest today that I'm really excited about. We're going to be discussing the experience that we've had earlier this week on our wellness workshop, and it was a great turnout. We had 20 guys that showed up, and furthermore, we're running it back. So we're going to do it again in August. We'll get into that. We'll talk a little more about that. Let me go ahead and I'll do our usual introduction here in honor of my boy. What is up, guys? Thank you for tuning into the Modern Macho. This is your host, Juan Carlos. I am not here with my boy Santi, but he is okay. We are usually two gentlemen that are documenting our journey. We're embracing the dudes that we are in order to become better men for ourselves and our village. We're tired of fitting the mold. We're tired of dick measuring contests, and we're tired of pretending to be somebody that we're not. We hope that after each episode, we get you to start a conversation with your circle, that we can plant a seed, that we can challenge your thinking, that we can motivate you to focus on growth, and hopefully bring awareness to the twisted programming that we've been brought up with believing. As y'all can tell, your boy lost a little bit of his voice. I think his Monday evening started acting up, and I'm pretty sure with all the fireworks that were going on yesterday, the air quality did not help. Um, I wasn't doing much screaming, so I don't really know what it was, but hey, here we are. I'm sipping on some tea, hoping that it helps. I guess I could share. Usually I ask him, but I'm asking myself here. This is me checking in with you guys. I'm good. Today's the second Monday of the week. Things are going well. Definitely, I'd say feeling a little bit uncomfortable this week. I'm really trying to polish up a lot of what this platform is. Everything from learning to embracing my capabilities, embracing what we are building here as a community, and also the gift that all this is kind of like blossoming now. And the nurturing father programs that I do on Monday nights has really opened my eyes to how much of us as men really are trying to be better fathers, how much of us really are hesitating to step up, to be vulnerable, how much of us are afraid and don't know how to ask for help, where to ask for help. And when we haven't been heard. And it's made it very difficult for us. And so I think it kind of keeps me um, feeling really, really grateful and honored to be in the spaces, and also just motivated to keep pushing with this. And I know now that when I start to feel these moments of discomfort, it's growth. It's growth, and I'm more willing to lean into it as a choice. I don't feel like I'm being cornered, and I think a lot of times that's usually how I tend to grow. Is sink or swim, is kind of just getting thrown in the deep end, knowing that I'm not going to die, and that's how I tend to do it, right? And go into crisis mode. And so I think now, really allowing myself to feel the things that I need to feel, to process them as they come, and then, um, yeah, just getting in there and diving in full force. So a lot of that's been going on nonstop, and a lot of quality time now with Julian. As you guys know, Julian was in Hawaii, so he wasn't around, which was a bummer. It was like 2 weeks. I was like a week and a half. I didn't even know what to do. The first couple hours were kind of nice to just breathe and sleep in and do nothing, and then after that, I was like, all right, cool, I'm ready to have my kid back. So it's been nice to spend quality time. We did some fireworks. He got to light his first firework yesterday, which was a lot of fun to be able to do that together, and yeah, just getting back into the groove. So I don't want to waste any time. I'm going to get right into it. Today we have a very special guest, someone that we just met a couple weeks ago, right? And shout out to VD. And Healing Connections decided to put this wellness workshop together, and we talked about, hey, let's do something for men. She reached out to me, seeing that how could I help, right? How could I get involved? And I was like, hey, I love what you guys are doing, and how can we work together to encourage men to try things like this for the first time? It was new to me. I think it was new to probably maybe 60-70% of the 20 guys that ended up showing up. And I would say out of that, maybe 100% of them that had done it in a space with other men. So it was really a very powerful experience. I felt very, very connected to these men without even really knowing them, which was it was interesting, but I leaned into that again. Like, I was like, this is cool. Fuck it. Let's just give it a shot, and I hope we can run this again, because I would love for Sant to be here and kind of share a little bit about what that was for us, because I wanted to drink. I wanted to just go to the things with how I normally would cope before showing up to this event the day of. And I knew I was committed. I knew I had to show up. I couldn't back out. So I was like, damn, I'm fucked, you know? And so, anyway, we did it. Once there, we met, or I met, finally got to meet, our guest of today, who I spoke through. We had virtual meetings, planning this event and get everything together, polishing things up, but we had never met in person. And so, anyway, our special guest is going to be a Reiki master and soul healer, intuitive soul coach, Kristine. I hope I'm saying this right. Linares. She would call herself she had her second spiritual awakening. Her life and her beliefs started to unravel and challenge her in ways that caused her to face her inner world. That's when Reiki, sound healing, and energy work found her, and she hasn't looked back since. She's passionate about the realm of root cause healing of an energetic, spiritual, and physical level, and wants to bring this intrinsic healing to the world. And I apologize for my vocabulary there. And her quote was, "You are the healer of your life. I simply walk beside you on the journey to hold space and remind you of this miracle." So without further ado, I bring you guys Kristine.
What's up?
What up? How you doing?
What up? I'm great. So grateful to be on here. Thank you for the ask. This is my very first podcast.
What? Oh, what an
Totally. Yeah.
honor. What an
Yeah. Yeah.
honor. I appreciate you taking the time. One of the things that really stood out when I met you, Kristine, was we talked about this a little bit beforehand, was just how just your vibe. Like, you're just so chill, you're so
Mhm.
cool. Like, I went into this whole thing already kind of like intimidated, right? Mad at myself for not drinking. And then they start throwing Reiki, they start throwing breath work, they start throwing all this stuff that was like, this is like some hippie shit, dude. Like, what the hell is all this stuff, you know? And then like we bring it to the table and you're just like, you're laughing, you're vibing. I'm like, cool. Like there was this sense of like comfort of like, damn, like I appreciate that. Like I appreciate that we're just showing up wholeheartedly, And so you taking the time really to just chat about this and hopefully maybe open the door for more gentlemen to really see some of the benefits of this, because breath work is like I was trying to figure out how to put this sarcastically, but it's like, this is we've never done this, right? We don't breathe ever in our lives. So why would this benefit us? Why would we care about any of this?
Yeah. Yeah. It's an ancient technology, and not to mention it's free.
Mm,
And we completely take it for granted, right? We breathe consciously, and we can breathe consciously, but most of the time we're breathing unconsciously, right?
right.
We very rarely bring attention and awareness to our breathing. It's just there for us no matter what. We're just going about life doing our thing, and we're just counting on our body to keep us alive with our breath. And in that, we've completely taken it for granted. And when you stop and you actually are mindful and you actually do the work that is required in breath work, it is mind blowing. It's body blowing, mind blowing, as
Yeah.
I'm sure you can attest to, right?
Dude, and it's like it's so interesting that you're talking about that, because you're absolutely right. It's just second nature. Like breath work. You just fucking breathe. Like walking, right? It's like you just
Yeah,
do it. You're just supposed to
yeah,
do it. Like the thought, and I guess even as I process right now, the thought of actually taking control of it, to doing something with it for yourself, is like, what? Right? And
yeah.
and I mean, I didn't grow up with any of of these modalities, of any of these practices, of even knowing anything about this. So I think it's also kind of hard to see it as something that should be normal, right? Or something that should be
Mhm.
focused on or prioritized, when to a certain extent, it's like, for the last 31 years, Kristine, I've figured it out without it,
Right,
you know?
exactly. Yeah, 100%.
What is so I mean, start us from the beginning, man. Like breath work, Reiki. Let's start with Reiki. Like, so what exactly is it? What does it entail? I mean, what are we talking about here?
So, Reiki is a terminology used to describe a particular kind of energy healing. Dr. Mikao Usui was a doctor in Japan. And so, Usui Reiki, originated in Japan by that name. But
Mm,
this, again, is a technology that has been used for thousands and thousands and thousands of years by ancient civilizations, indigenous cultures. And if everybody or if anybody is familiar with chi or life force energy, if you've ever gotten acupuncture or you've ever watched a Bruce Lee movie, then you are very familiar with chi, which is our life force energy. It is all around us, it is within us, and it is an energy force that can heal. And when it is concentrated and when it is used intentionally through a channeler, which is what a Reiki master does or a Reiki practitioner does, then it can inspire deep intrinsic root cause healing in our body. And what was really fascinating was when I was exploring Reiki and wanting to learn about Reiki, I had never heard of it, one, and I've never received a Reiki treatment on myself. So that in and of itself was like, why am I even exploring this path? I know nothing about it. I have no history with it. I don't even know really exactly what it is, but for some reason I was led. I was just led, and I call it being spirit led or intuitively led. And so I just kind of kept on picking up the breadcrumbs and taking that right next step, and following my inspiration to seek this modality out. And before you know it, I was training as a Reiki practitioner, Reiki 1 practitioner. And then I quickly decided, okay, I want to go be a Reiki 2 practitioner. And then after that, then I said, I'm going for the Reiki master. And
Right.
so it's a certification process, and you study with a Reiki master. And it really is just um, saying yes to being a channel for that Reiki life force energy, that chi, and using hands on or hands hovering over somebody's body and in their auric field um, to shift energy, to move energy, stuck energy that's in our body. And so that's where I started first. And that was a few years ago, several years ago now. And then
Mm.
I haven't looked back.
I love
Yeah.
that. I love that. Yeah, and I love that you even mentioned how it was also something that you were just intrigued about, right? Like it wasn't. It
Yeah.
sounds like it wasn't something that was really around either. And I couldn't
No,
help
I,
I couldn't help but think like to me that was such a white people thing, right? Like what? Like everything to me. It's funny. Like even thinking about it, Christine is like it's all yoga. Right, like, to me, it's all
yeah,
yoga, like, every si
yeah,
no, 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 it's because there's, like, there's different modalities, and it's something that I'm still, like, trying to learn a little more about and being more intrigued about, but it's like, whenever anything that has to do with breath work, I'm like, "It's all yoga, it's the same st"
right,
I just
right.
generalizing the crap out of it, right?
Everybody does that. And that's so funny that you said that, because I met one of my neighbors one day. I met her at the pool, and she's like, "So what do you do?" And I explained to her what I do. She's like, "Oh, is that like yoga?" And I'm like, "No, it's not, but okay." No, but it
Right.
is in the same realm. It is actually in the same realm. It really is. All of these technologies, all of these modalities are ancients. Your indigenous ancestors worked with this energy. My indigenous ancestors did as well. And it's so ironic that, you know, so many of us are looking at it like this green-eyed monster, like, what is, it must be all yoga or whatever, or it's so woo-woo, or you're a tree hugger or whatever. um,
I love that, yeah,
but
yeah.
it literally started with the ancients and our indigenous cultures. And so yeah, so after that, after Reiki got a hold of me, then sound healing quickly came after, and it was almost kind of at the same time when I found sound healing. And again, I don't know how I found sound healing. I don't know my mentor. I don't know how I found her. Looking back, I just think that I was following those little breadcrumbs. And of course, I found both of my mentors on Instagram. So,
Mm,
you know, they just, like your Instagram feed just starts to, auto populate with all of the things that like you're thinking, and
right.
it's there. Um, so when I added sound healing to Reiki, it really was kind of like the beautiful, perfect marriage for me, because my background is music. Like that is my whole entire background. Um, I used to be a professional actor. I used to be a professional singer. And so it just kind of made sense that I was bringing this sound component into this energy healing. And then once I started to delve even deeper, um, I realized everything is sound healing. Everything is energy healing, and everything
Mm.
is light healing. And so, yeah, it's a trip. It was so cool though.
Yeah, yeah, and that's so interesting. And this is why I also, one thing I've been learning about myself too is a lot of times when the younger me, and trust me, I still do the banter now, but I think I realized that a lot of my like the way I would build my wall was like trying to talk shit on things, right? Like I said, with yoga, oh,
Hmm.
that's a white people thing, or like that's for
Hmm.
this or that's for that. Like, and I think what I started to learn about myself as I was getting older is like usually the things that I was doing that with, it was like something was making me afraid to lean into it. And I was actually intimidated, or I was, or you know what I mean? Like I was actually curious, but I didn't know how to say it. So that's how I would kind of deflect on it. And I mentioned that because that was something I feel very grateful for now too, because it's intimidating, like learning about all these things. And it's like I could never, right? I could never step out of my comfort zone for some, even though I know that I'm learning a little bit about breath work and it can be beneficial, but like I can't go in there and be like, hey, so how do you guys do this? You know what I mean? So instead I'm just gonna push the other way. And I really appreciated that from you from the beginning, that we were able to just kind of laugh about it and joke that it was like, "Hey, dude, I thought this was all just yoga." And it was like, "No." I was like, "Oh, cool. Okay, now." And believe it or not, Christine, I appreciated that because I feel like it really opened the door for me to feel more comfortable to ask more questions, right? To really
Yeah.
want to learn more about. Because then you talk about like sound healing, right? And I'm like, that to me is like Spring Love and Zapp and Roger. Like, what are we doing? Are we just hanging out? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, what are we really
Yeah.
jamming out to here? And so, I think you've mentioned a little bit like about the sound baths. And I think there's frequencies that are involved with this too, correct?
100%. Yeah.
Okay.
It's like sound frequency, and all of that is just energetics. So, gosh, how do I say this without like going completely off the
I
rails?
kn oh, man.
So, okay.
You know what's so
So,
funny? Go ahead, go ahead, go ahead.
okay. So the best way to kind of enter into like sound healing is the universal language of music, right? I mean, music is universal. It transcends space, time, and languages. And when you hear a song, it makes you want to make love or dance or rage or, cry. Um, and that in and of itself is probably the exact way to understand the power of sound and the power of sound frequency, is that there is an energetic component behind all of that that speaks to us, and it affects us, it moves us. And that's exactly what sound healing is it's a sound frequency that is attuned to a specific frequency. And my crystal
Mm,
alchemy bowls are also attuned to specific chakras, which are energy systems in our body. um, and so when I play the sound bowls, not only is it speaking to your internal energetic system and into your cells, it's actually balancing and introducing new information into your body in order for it to recalibrate. So yes, it has like a full on like relaxing component to it, but even deeper than that. And that's like the high level thing that you're going to get from it is like, okay, I'm going to just veg out and just chill and take a nap and like, be all zen. But
yeah.
deeper than that, and I could go scientific, which I won't, but deeper
Why
than
not?
that, it's okay. Cause I mean, I could go down a rabbit hole, dude. Okay.
I mean, well, okay, look, and I didn't mean to cut you off, but I also think, like, and the reason why I'm only if you feel comfortable, but the reason why I ask is because I think a lot of
Yeah.
times this can get very, like, emotionally based. Right?
Yeah.
And so
Yeah. Okay.
which is I think is good, that's important, but I also think as men sometimes it's like, "Oh, no, we don't lean into the emotions, we can't." So I think it'd be
Mm-hmm.
cool,
Mm-hmm.
and again, I didn't mean to cut you off, and I apologize, but, like, I think it'd be cool, like, throw some science on us because that's a very
Yeah.
logical thing, right? Like,
Yeah.
I'd love to hear about that.
Yeah. Okay. So, so the sound frequencies of a crystal alchemy bowl, what it does, it interacts with our water structure within our body. Okay. And so, yeah, we're going
Mm,
to get really scientific, but what we're going to realize, and what we've realized, and what we're continuing to realize, is that spiritual and scientific um, modalities, or science and spirituality, are literally lockstep. You can't separate the
mm,
two anymore. There's so much science, quantum biological science, that is supporting this in magical ways. And there's so many beautiful studies. But so the sound frequencies interact with the water structure in our body. Now, it's not the water that you think of, that, the water in your cup that you're drinking, or the water that you shower with. It is not that kind of water. It's actually a specific kind of water called fourth phase water, or exclusion zone water. Okay. That water is a gelatinous type structure. So like jello, like this
Okay.
the
Okay.
structure of jello, and that is in our body. Okay. So a lot of guys I know, they know about working out and about the muscle structure and all of that stuff. And they've also heard about a structure called fascia. So, fascia is this intricate webbing that is in and around our entire internal system. It's in organs, it's in our muscles, it literally touches every single part of our body. That fascia is this webbing that holds all of this gel like water or fourth phase water. And what we now know is this exclusion zone or this fourth phase water contains the information that
Mm,
our cells need in order to know what to do, how to proliferate. Are we going to proliferate with health and wellness in our body, or are we going to proliferate with dis-ease and unwellness? Now, the reason why that is because this fascia and the water structure has crystalline formations in this water.
okay.
Okay. The way that the water structure is formed in their crystalline patterns is with the information around us. So, all the information, the external information and the internal information. So, what does that look like? That is the circumstance that we're in. That is the relationship that we're in. That's the external information,
Okay.
right?
Okay.
That's also the thoughts that we have in our head. That's also the food and the drink or the drugs that we put in our body. So, all of the things that are information or that are informational that we're inputting into our body is being disseminated by this gelatinous structure of water, and it's configuring crystalline structures around that.
Mm,
And that's what's informing our cells. So you think, okay, if I'm listening to really shitty music that's making me angry, okay, that's information that's being fed into that structure. If I'm in a really toxic relationship, that's information. If I have really, really terrible thoughts about myself, that's information. Likewise, if I am, you know, in a loving relationship and I feel supported, if I put beautiful, wonderful, healthy things in my body, life-giving food, and um, and I treat my body with respect, then that's information that your body is going to take, and it's going to give that information to the cells. And that's the difference between a diseased body or a body in ease, which is that healing state.
mm.
Okay, so that's the science behind it. And we didn't know that up until very recently. Um, as we know, science is not stagnant, science is ever changing, ever
Great point.
growing. And yeah, and so the things that we thought before are no longer. Um, and what we're finding out is that our body is this incredible, magical uh, vessel for healing. And it can heal itself. It can spontaneously heal itself if it is in the right circumstances, if it's given the right information, if we're aware and we're mindful of those kinds of things. So that the way that my sound bowls interact with your crystalline water structure is it actually reprograms those crystalline structures for health, wellness, and healing.
Mm.
And so even though you're feeling relaxed, what's happening is there's some scientific stuff happening up in your body and in your
Yeah,
fascia
yeah,
and in your cells, and you have no idea.
and I'm so glad that you brought that up because so like going into this event, right? There was hesitation. Like I said, it was like I knew I was committed. I was going to facilitate and stuff, and so it was like I was really excited about it. Definitely very honored, but I had my own fears going into it. Sissette and I had talked about it before. We were open about that with the guys of like, hey man, we're just as human as y'all, and so everyone had a very different experience, and so but I remember and then the reason why also, as you're throwing all this science out there, you're making all these things, you're making all these great points. I was very hesitant of even listening to a lot of that when we went into it. And we talked about this later, right? Because I was like,
Yes.
the fuck? Like, I was like, and usually I try to look at things from a very scientific perspective because a lot of times, you know, I've just been conditioned always to like try not to throw your emotions into your decision making, right? Which even then I'm learning to break those cycles, right? Because it's like,
Yeah.
well, emotions. like, it's logical, you shouldn't do it. And I'm like, but I'm also saying it very aggressively with a lot of frustration. And it's like, your emotions are clearly present, bro. You know, so
Mm-hmm.
I've had to be aware of that, right, and try to break that down. And so, yeah, as I was trying to really be open minded about it, I was just like, I don't know, like, we'll see. And so, anybody that's listening that probably has some hesitation, I'm not even going to try to convince you. All I'm going to tell you is that it's very valid. It's a very valid way to think because it's very, very new. And we're pretty much being
Right.
told that for this to for something to really give you something beneficial is you have to allow yourself to feel, which is allowing yourself to do something that you probably, especially us as men, have never been allowed to do. So it's kind of
Yeah.
hard to see it that way, you know. And I think every experience being so different too, you know. I know
Yeah.
that when I was going into it, I was definitely like, oh, we're basically just gonna take like an hour and a half nap, like, we're just gonna fucking pass out, just probably play some sounds, some music, and the whole in my head, I'm thinking the whole idea here is just get out of your fucking head for the next hour and a half and take a like a bomb ass nap, right? Like, and granted, dude, I'm not saying that I wasn't relaxed by the end of it, and I definitely felt lighter, but what the fuck? Like, that was, I think, the biggest takeaway from that whole experience for me was just I really was like blown away with the capabilities of our bodies. You probably know more about this than I do, but I know there was like a gentleman who like could go through pain with just like controlling his own body. Like, he couldn't feel like his tolerance was very, very high. And I remember reading about it where it's like he was just really in tune with himself. And I was like, that's fucking crazy. There's no way, dude. There's no way that he can't do it without medication. And I'm telling you, I'm still the same dude. It wasn't like all of a sudden I'm like, but it definitely, I thought of that and I was like, whoa, I could see how practicing and really
Mm-hmm.
shifting my mindset and the way that I take care of myself, that like I could put myself in a much more powerful and more liberating position for myself, you know?
1,000,000%, 1,000,000%. Our bodies are miraculous. And honestly, we have everything that we need in order to be able to accomplish and do everything that we want to. And that includes healing. Um, you had mentioned about the guy who you said he has a high tolerance for pain and he does it
Right.
because he really focuses in on his breath. Well, you know, there's a reason why they send women who are about to give birth to, you know, class to learn how to breathe through
Didn't even
the
think about that.
contractions. Yeah. There's such power in that. And that is exactly why we have our breath, is because our breath allows us to release the tension in our body. And so, for example, for somebody who's gone through four natural child birthing experiences, um, it really is the real fucking deal. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, I can't tell you. And this was before I found breath work. I had my
Oh,
kids
wow.
a long time ago. Yeah, I wasn't practicing breath work when I had my kids. I just was, I was hippie back then. I was a tree hugger back then, but now I'm like literally like I am the tree now.
Yeah, she's
Um,
love that,
I
love that.
so yeah, shoot. I mean, if I had the knowledge I had back then, maybe my birth would have, gone even easier. But yeah, I mean, it was about locking in on the breath and trusting my body to be able to do what it was made to do.
Mm,
And that was a lot of breathing. Yeah. And so, going into that breath and kind of destigmatizing like what breath work is in that ceremony that you attended and that the other 20 men attended as well, is that was probably the most work that you had to do in that moment, because you actually had to do the breathing. You had to be conscious of the breaths that you were taking and how you were taking that breath. And that's where a lot of that emotional processing, that's where a lot of that energetic processing and energetic release came from, because that hyperoxygenated state that your body becomes or becomes in, is what allows our monkey mind to shut off, and it allows the limbic system to turn on in order to be able to access that emotional history. And all of that emotional history is stored in our body. And why
yeah.
is that? Because emotions are just energy in motion, emotion, energy in motion. And when we experience an emotion and we experience a circumstance or a trigger or whatever, whatever it is, whatever we experience that involves an emotional reaction, it has to move somewhere. It has to go somewhere, and if it doesn't, if it's suppressed, if it's, we're not allowed to feel this because we're a man and we just gotta, suck it up, man
Yeah.
up, right? And so then what do we do with it? We suppress it, because showing it means what? You're less of a man, right? So then we're stuffing and we're suppressing and we're doing other things in order to deal with these emotions that are clearly still encapsulated in our body. Like anger. Let's take anger, for example. What is the one thing that people who get really angry like to do? Like maybe just like guys. What do? They want to
Yeah, we're
punch a
raging.
wall.
Yeah, we're raging.
You want to punch a wall. You want to punch down your door, or you want to beat somebody's ass, right? That comes from anger, right?
Right, right.
That is an energetic manifestation, or even a physical manifestation of that anger experienced. What if we don't do that? What if we're so angry and we just swallow it and we stuff it? Where does that go? It stays in our body.
Oh shit,
And
that's a good point.
so, yeah,
Or
yeah. And
even I'm
so with
also
breath work,
thinking like how many of us like haven't raged and we just end up crying, right? Like cuz we like you're saying we release it. Like it's we have to release it one way or another. Yeah,
and
and
that's great.
I'm also thinking about like there's also it's all I can see it being very heavy, not only because of the experience that I had, but also I think just to finally allow yourself to feel when you've been conditioned to not, like that can there's a lot of trauma underneath all that too that just that can be a very, very powerful experience that I think if not in a safe environment, right, in a guided room, like I mean, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I feel like that could be very dangerous too, right?
100%. 100%.
Yeah.
If there is not a safe container that's being, held for somebody that's going into spaces like this, whether it's breath work, whether it's plant medicine, whether it's therapy, whatever modality you're using to access your emotions and your emotional history or processing of that, if there's not a safe person or a safe container that you feel like you're safe to experience, then it could actually re-traumatize you. And that's what people don't understand is
Mm.
that, um, you know, with this movement of plant medicine coming on, or it has been coming on to the surface a lot lately, but, if you don't have a guide who you can trust and who safely brings you into the journey and safely brings you out of the journey and into integration, then you can really have a, a traumatic experience. And I know stories of people that come out of it on the other side not well. And that goes for anything. So pranayamic breathing, which is the breath work that we did, it's a highly activating breath, and
Mm.
it accesses parts of your brain that plant medicine does as well. And if breath work isn't explained to you properly, and if it's not safely contained for you, then it could be, you know, not as good of an experience as it should be.
Yeah,
But when you do have a container of safety and you feel safe and you feel supported in that, then the sky's the limit with what you're
I love
able to
that.
accomplish in that breath work. I mean, you can really go deep. And I I think that, like I said, it was a privilege and an honor to watch you journey through that breath work, because you had a profound experience, a beautiful experience. And, it was like one of the best things to watch was to see you journey through that and come out on the other side going, what
Yeah,
the fuck
dude,
did I
man,
just
hey,
do?
look, and I champion every single one of the dudes that went in there because I think all of us, as we reflected at the end, is like we all took something away from that. Like no matter where we were at, I would say I mean, unless one of these dudes was bullshitting, but like and I know that they weren't, but I'm like I really feel that every single one of us got uncomfortable, even if it was just the fact that we fucking went into that room that day, right? Because we made that choice, and it was like, dude, we all pushed ourselves a little more, and like, fuck yeah, it's a step in the right direction. And so, yeah, dude, when we were done, I was like. I was even telling myself, Kristine, like, dude, wait, did I take some shit before coming in here? Did
Yeah.
I drink? Like, wait, what the fuck? I was, and like you said, right? Like, there's definitely no expectations going into it, and the part of that reason is I was like, I want to be like very surface level about my experience itself, um, but it was just like at the end of it, and also, going back to a little bit of the trauma thing, because when we planned this, we also wanted to be very intentional about that, and I'm glad that we did it the way that we did because shout out to my guy Cesar, right? Having a therapist in the room with us where like I think collectively we were all able to kind of bring our pieces in there, Vidi was able to help out with a lot of this, and Myra was also putting a lot of these things together. Like literally, I think the way that we did it, like I do want to take a second to give us a little bit of flowers and say that we all kind of took part in
Yeah.
everything from the location to food to providing space to resonating to guiding to then helping and providing tools to then letting everyone go home and take what they wanted with them in terms of the experience, I think
Yeah.
was really, really cool. Because I also didn't think about that, if I'm being completely
Yeah.
honest. Kristine, like you're saying, like it didn't really hit me till after that. I was like, whoa, I mean, you could really tap into some heavy shit here. Right. And
Mhm.
if you don't have the
Yeah.
right people there, yeah, I didn't even think about that till now. Like that can be even like that could further I could see how that will further validate those traumas where it's like this is why we're doing what we're doing, or this is why we don't feel, this is why we function the way that we do. Um,
Mhm.
and that can be very, very
100%.
unfortunate. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I mean, it takes a village and it takes a community, and we can't do, or I can't do this work alone. And we're more powerful when we're together. And so, I mean, a shout out to Healing Connections, Vidi and Maida, and then again, yeah, you're right, having Cesar there to kind of ground us in what our intentions are, off the jump. Like, what is your intention? What are you bringing to this? And then closing it off was just a really beautiful and safe container that was done right. I think it was done right, and I think it was so important that it was done right for this event because we were holding space for 20 men. And if you were to line up the 20 men, which, we do have a picture, but if you were to look at this group of men and, ask them 3 months ago if they would ever go into a breathwork meditation sound healing ceremony, all of them would probably give,
Yeah.
say, hell
I,
no. What
I would
is
have
that? What is even?
I would have seen that same picture, but it would have been at like a little dive bar with some pool tables in the back. That's where
Right.
I would have seen it.
Exactly.
In which
Yeah.
I'm not saying you can't have a drink, but like that's to me, that's like, oh, we're getting together. That's where we do it. You would never find 20 of us inside of a studio, experiencing this.
A
God,
yoga
that's
studio. Yeah. No, I mean, I'm telling you, and when I started to see the guys roll up, I'm like, okay, like we're doing this thing. Cause it's not like I had guys in yoga pants and, all
right. Yeah,
seasoned,
true.
it wasn't that crowd. It wasn't that crowd. The crowd that you probably thought would do this modality. It was the polar opposite. And that tells me that because it was this group of 20, that this, and the way that it landed with the group of 20, the value that I saw that they walked away with, it solidified that this indeed is so important, so incredibly important, because this is something that we've been divorced from, meaning we've been divorced from knowing that apart from our physical body, we're a small percentage of that. And what we actually are is we are that internal energetic body, the emotional body, the spirit part of this
Yeah.
human being,
Yeah,
right?
for sure. For sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I
Yeah.
think it was also so, I think because we knew how cliche, right? Like how groundbreaking this was. Um, I think there was a lot of responsibility that came with that, at least that I put upon myself, where it's like, this is make or break.
Mm-hmm.
This doesn't get done like regularly. Like you're either gonna bridge the
Right.
gap, Carlos, and this was my self-sabotaging, right? Where it's like you're either gonna bridge the gap or you're gonna fuck this up, dude. Like what's it gonna be? You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
so, but I think and if any of those 20 guys are listening, or just anybody that wants to try this, or maybe they want to have their partners, participate in something like this, and they're down to just be like, fuck it, let's try something different. Like, I think in that moment, it was really about us. us individually, right? Getting out of our own comfort zones and our experiences, and really, I think, figuring out the men that we're trying to be and how this can play a part in that, right? And
Mhm.
as you're sharing what you're sharing, like, now looking at the bigger picture and realizing, like, this was fucking powerful. Like, I don't think the 20 men in that room realize how much guts it took to really do what they did. I don't even think I did, dude. Like, I was just like, "Oh, that was cool." Like, "Oh, we bridged the gap. That was cool." The amount of love that we received, especially even within the community that practices a lot of these modalities, like,
Yeah.
regularly, that Kristine was new to me, because I'm not around. And BD knows this. I tell her all the time, I'm like, I don't know people that do a lot of this stuff. So, like, I'm down and I'm open, but, like, to me, this is just, it's just new to me. And then to see the amount of love, I think even there was a little bit of that personal trauma. I mentioned at the beginning that to me, it's like, oh, it's yoga. It's all yoga, and it's also a white people thing. And so then to see people like reach out and show love and be like, this is amazing, is like, there's a lot of healing that kind of goes behind the scenes,
Yeah.
and for me, it was definitely different being in a space where now a woman was going to guide it, because there was a sense that felt comfort, but there's also this other sense of like, you don't look like me, and how do I
Mhm.
feel about that? Is this going to work? Is this not? You know, um, as I'm sure, and maybe you can share a little bit about that, Kristine. Um, you have experience doing this for a while. It sounds like you've never been in a room with nothing but 20 guys wanting to be doing an experience like this.
So say that again. It sounds like
It
what?
sounds like that's something that you hadn't done before. Like, what was that experience
Oh,
like for you being in a space? Had you ever been in a space like that with that many men that were new to the practice that were willing to try it?
never,
Mm,
never. So I've held men only, what I call ceremonies in my small studio, but never 20. And I also see clients one on one, and I do have clientele that are men. But I've never sat in front of 20 men and held space for just men only. I used to, or I'm not used to, but I used to hold my groups where it was combined men and women. And of course, the vast majority would be women who brought, maybe, one or two women brought their husbands or their boyfriends, or that sort of thing. But again, 20 men in one room was extraordinary for me. I felt great to be able, I felt honored to be able to hold that space. um, and I just kind of let spirit lead me. I just kind of like dropped into my body. I did my own little meditation, dropped into my own body, just made sure that I was grounded, so that I would be able to be the best facilitator and best channel for this modality for you guys. And, you know, spirit, Holy Spirit, whatever you want to call it, never fails, and I trusted the words that were coming out of my mouth. I trusted that I was going to be able to convey the message that needed to be heard. Um I was nervous. I was just hoping that, like, I wasn't going to scare these guys off and they'd be like, this girl is a bunch of BS. Like, she needs to go back to, I don't know.
the tree hugger.
Um, the tree hugger
Yeah.
needs to go outside and hug that tree. Um,
Not at all.
but
Not at all.
but it was overwhelming to, be able to have those first couple of minutes interacting and speaking, because in those first couple of minutes is when I can really tune into the group's energy and see what's landing and what's not. And literally, it was as though a pin could drop, because these men, most of them, have never heard some of the things I was saying. And so they're just like, huh? Like, I could see the eyes, like, whoa. And so, yeah, I mean, it is just very, very powerful. And I think that bridging this gap is going to be one of my life's greatest work, to be
Mm,
able to reach more men like the 20 that we had. My husband's Latino. He's a construction worker. He he's there. He comes from a long line of strong Latino men, and I get it. My family, my dad's Filipino. I'm Filipino, so I understand the Latin, the Hispanic, the Spanish,
mm.
um, mentality. And um, I think it's so important to reach these communities, men of every, creed, color, race, whatever. Because I think that we've done a huge disservice over so many years, decades and decades and decades of conditioning that men aren't supposed to do these things and men aren't allowed to feel. And that doesn't say that all men don't feel their emotions. Maybe they do, but they don't know how to process it. Maybe they're
Yeah.
feeling these things and they don't know how to name it,
Yeah.
and all of
Yeah.
something as simple as that is really, really important. Um,
And I think even
so
just the men that do practice these things are not real men, right? Like there's this, you know what I'm saying? Like
yeah, yeah,
there's also this stigma of like real men don't do this. Like real men figure it out. Or like I said, we'll ease it with the drink, and I've been guilty of it. I mean, I think I told you, dude, right after that, it was like I went to go see my family that same day and I didn't drink. Hey, you want to know what's interesting? We haven't caught up, Christine, but I actually saw I was with my family, what was it, last Wednesday? Last Wednesday, I went to go see my dad play. So I've been seeing my family like consistently, and I went to watch my dad play. And usually the guys, they drink pretty often. And my dad doesn't, but like most of those guys will have a few every time they play. And so as I was watching, my uncle was like, "Hey, you want a beer?" And I was like, "No," I was like, I'm good. I'm fine." And so he goes to grab like the bucket, he brings it over, he's like, "You sure want one?" I was like, "No, I'm cool." And then he goes, "Hey, you haven't been drinking, huh?" And like that shit kind of threw, to be honest with you, it threw me off, Christine, because I was like, I didn't know you were paying attention. And I was like, "No, I haven't." And then he told me, he's like, "You good?" And like how sad, right? Like he's more concerned that I'm not drinking, right? But and I wasn't offended because I totally get it. But I just told
yeah,
him, I was like, "No, no, I haven't really been feeling." And look, I'm not lying and saying that I'm not drinking. I'm definitely still drinking, but like I have cut down so much because I realized that it was like a lot of it was just habit, right? Like I was just like come home and I'm like, okay, cool. I'm not gonna drink a lot. It's literally gonna be like 2 shots worth of whiskey. I'm just gonna sip on it before I go to bed. Like yeah, it's measured, and I think I was justifying it. And I feel like this experience for me, it wasn't even so much that I guilted myself into changing or I shamed myself into like, "Oh, you drink. What kind of fucking
right,
person are you?" No, no, no.
yeah.
It was honestly just one of those of like, holy shit, my body really does so much for me. I need to respect it a little bit. And I know, and look, I'm thinking of all my boys that I'm like out in the field and construction workers, and I'm like, I know, bro, I know I sound so corny right now. I know, but trust me, dog. Like this
Yeah.
shit was like very eye-opening as to how much our body really can do for us and is doing for us, right? And it's
Hmm.
like we've been lied to in terms of prioritizing ourselves, therefore it's hard to see the value in it. But
Hmm.
yo, I'm telling you, like it was such an eye-opening experience that I take with me moving forward of knowing. um and I've even told Vidi this. There's times where like I'll freak out and like I can talk myself through it, not in a just like a I feel like before, and I'll use soccer as an analogy. Like before, if it's like if I would be in a situation where it's like it's a penalty, we've got 2 minutes left, and this could be the game-winning goal, and like I was always kind of brought up with this mindset of like, no biggie, it's no big deal, it's no big deal, it's no big deal, it's no big deal. You know what I mean? Not
Yeah.
realizing that what I've been trained to do is to suppress, right? It's no big deal.
Hmm.
Where I feel like now it's like, no, this is a big deal. We've got about five
Yeah.
minutes left in the game. This is going to be could potentially be the game deciding goal. It's a big deal. It's not easy, but we're going to do this, right? And it's like you're still going into it. You're still, but it's like now really embracing the things that we're feeling. And so this really opened my eyes to like, holy shit, our body does a lot for us. Um, I owe it to myself. Like this is like the legit self care, self love thing that we hear about all the time. You know?
I'm so glad that you said that, you made the distinction of how much our body actually does for us. It's one of the things I tell my clients all the time, and it kind of goes back to, that information that we're feeding our body, right? What we're putting in and on our body, or what we've got going on around us, is the information that we're feeding our body. And for you to make the distinction that our body literally does everything for us, it is literally the only thing that loves us unconditionally in this world. Why is that? Because we could do so much to it. We can abuse it so much. We can tell our body all sorts of, horrible things. We can tell ourselves so many horrible things. We can feed it junk. We can drink and drug and pill it, you know, so
Right.
that we can numb that body that takes care of us from feeling. Um, and guess what? You get to wake up the next day still. And you get to wake up the next day, hopefully, still. And
Right.
this can go on for decades and years and years and years and years until your body starts to say, hey, this ain't sustainable anymore. Why? Because I've got kidney issues now, or my liver isn't functioning, or maybe I've got some heart issues now. And that's really the the way that our body tells us that it's not doing okay and it's out of
Right.
alignment is when we start to feel that dis-ease, when we start to experience some of those those diseases that cause us, lots and lots of turmoil, like those big diseases, heart disease, kidney disease, cancer. That's a huge one. And then of course all of these autoimmune diseases that are popping up left and right, which, doctors don't really know what's wrong. So we're just going to put a label on it and call it this autoimmune, and there's this pill for it. And I mean, the list goes on and on. But again, the distinction is that our body loves us so much that no matter what we do to it, it'll get us up in the morning so that we can live another day.
Yeah.
And so what are
Yeah.
we going to do with that information? Are we going to continue? And I can't believe that, like, I literally can't, like, I know that that happened because we had a meeting like the Monday after, right? And then you were telling me about the Sunday right after the ceremony, and
Oh,
you're
yeah,
like,
because it was
that was
2 days
cool.
in a row. Yeah, 2 days in a row.
Yeah, 2 days in a row. And I'm like, dang, but then it kind of carried on. And
I
yeah,
mean,
I mean, I
even
think,
that Saturday for me. So I had already told my family, like, just a little backstory. I had already told my family earlier in the week, like, we should kick it on Saturday because that was Father's Day weekend. So I'm like, hey,
mhm.
we should do something Saturday because I think like some of us had plans Sunday already, right? And so I was like, all right, well, Saturday, let's get together. So I'm like, I sent this message down the group, and then oh, I gotta work, I gotta do this, and like people weren't deciding on anything, and I was kind of annoyed because I'm like, yo, it's Father's Day, like we gotta get together. And I had already told myself, like, I'm not gonna insist. At the very least, I'm just gonna hang out with my dad on Sunday because Julian was in Hawaii, so I already knew I wasn't gonna see him. But I was like, at the very
Oh,
least,
okay.
I'll go see my dad, right? And so nothing, nothing. Tell me why Saturday, mind you, the event was in Orange. My family lives up in the high desert in Victorville, so um,
Okay.
as I'm driving over to the event, my aunt calls me and she's like, "Hey, it turns out the work schedule got switched around." And she's like, "So we're gonna go." And I was just thinking, like, "Are y'all fucking kidding?" Like, you guys are telling me this, and no, not like no shade towards my aunt, right? We talked about it, but like, I went into my irritated mode of just like, what the fuck, dude? Like, we had all week, and now you guys are doing, even though you guys plans change, like we could easily adapt, but no, I was like, I wanted to be upset. I was like, fuck. And so
Yeah.
all that to say, dude, once I got done, it was like the family got together like at 2. The event didn't until like
Uh-huh.
4. By the time we got done and just hanging out with everyone and really recapping and everything, I don't think we left till like 5:30. And I
Right.
was like, I made the 2-hour drive. Like, as soon as I was leaving, I texted him. I was like, yeah, I'll come by. Like, I'll see you guys here in a minute. Like, I felt so light. Like, I felt like there was so much clarity and like so much smoke was just kind of cleared. And so even just being there with the family, like I said, I got there and you want to drink, and I was like, dude, I already feel like I'm kind of buzzing. Like, I feel like so good. Like, I just feel energized. And going into it Sunday too, and my dad's game, and that was my second chance in a row now where it's like, hey, just out of habit, you want to drink, and I'm like, nah, I'm cool. Like, if I'm not really wanting to drink, I'm not I'm not gonna push it any more than I need to.
Yeah. Yeah. That's amazing, and no judgment on people who do drink, but it's just a distinction to be made of,
Eh,
is
then
it
you
is it a habit that's serving me, or is it a habit that I'm falling into just because, right?
No,
And
and you bring up a good point also, which is like, I didn't just wake up the next day and I'm like some meditation guru here. Like, nah, dude, I'm still, but I think it was very similar to like my very first therapy session where it was just very validating. And I think it kind of ignited something within me that was like, whoa, we really are like growing. We're changing things up. You know what I mean? And it's not an overnight thing.
no.
I almost look at it even sometimes of like people that are just active, right? That maybe they don't have a whole regime, and they wake up and go to the gym for 2 hours every single day. but
Hmm.
it's like they'll go for a walk or they'll play some sports, right? And it's like, dude, it can look like so many ways. Like I tend to go 100 at everything. So I'm like, if you really want to like, be more in tune with your health, and you better go extreme with your diets, and you better be breathing 9 hours a day and doing this and doing that. And it's like, hey, dude, like give yourself fucking grace. Like this doesn't happen
Yeah.
overnight. And if right now it just
Yeah.
starts off with you waking up and taking slow, like even the simple fact, Christine, that now every once in a while I'm like, I haven't taken a deep breath. And I'm like, all right, cool. I just remembered to have to do that. Like, I would never do that before, Or like, hey, your
Yeah.
shoulders are fucking sticking up a little bit, bro. Drop them. Like, what's
Yeah.
going? Why are we so
Yeah.
tense, right? All these little adjustments that I have to remind myself it doesn't happen overnight. And also, nobody modeled this for me. I have to be nice to myself about it. I can't let that discouraging me from leaning into it and trying to, like, push myself towards something better.
Yeah, yeah. And just you saying all of that is just literally bridging the gap. Like just that in and of itself, what you shared in the last 2 minutes is bridging the gap between what was and what can be in just a very simple way of just pausing and saying, oh shit, I haven't taken a deep breath. Let me do that right now because I'm kind of feeling tense. Or, hey, my body is like needing a little break and I want to give it a little bit of love because it's been so awesome to me. And just that in and of itself, those little minor thought adjustments or mindset adjustments does leaps and bounds for your overall health and for your overall wellness emotionally, spiritually, physically. And yeah, it isn't an overnight, nothing is overnight. All of that is bullshit. It's layer by layer, inch by inch. And you're gonna forget 5 days in a row to breathe. And then you're going to remember the next 2 days to stop and breathe. And that's okay. The fact that you remembered and that you were, brought back to the memory of like, oh, shit, I need to breathe again is okay. And I tell my clients all the time, you're going to take 10 steps forward only to stumble backwards 3 steps. And then you're going to leap forward 5 more steps to fall down 1 step. And it's a dance. This whole journey of life, whether it's the healing journey, whatever it is, life is a journey. It's a dance, and you're going
Mm,
to glide forward and you're going to fall backwards, and then you're going to turn 10 steps forward and then you're going to fall backwards. But the point is not to judge that like that was a really shitty dance and I'm doing such a shitty job, I'm such a terrible dancer. No, the point is just fucking show up and dance,
there you
dude.
go. There you go. Rhythm or not, just get
Yeah.
in there. Fucking two-step it if you have to, but get in there, right? I love that.
Just
And
get
one
in the
thing
game.
one thing I always like to ask, especially when we bring on professionals and we discuss a lot of your guys' crafts and your skills and your talents, is being that you're able to educate and you're able to guide with so much breath work. You have your life together, right?
It's like perfect. What are you talking about? Like everything is perfect.
That's why you're telling us, because you have it all figured out, correct?
Yes.
Uh,
Uh-huh.
to me, I feel
Oh
like
man.
that's so important, because again, I think a lot, and other men from our community that I have so much love for, that we resonate a lot on this, is that like we shoot for that perfection. We shoot
Hmm.
for the answers, right? And it's so valid. But it's like really bringing clarity to like, hey, no, 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 no. Like we're still gonna go through stuff. That's why the answer isn't don't drink. The answer isn't take a deep breath every day, right? The answer, I think, it's just really, I think, getting to know ourselves a lot better. And like you're saying,
Mm-hmm.
just get on the fucking dance floor and dance for a little while. I love the way you
Yeah.
put that.
100%. Yeah. And I'm a human being. I am having a human experience just like everyone else.
Mm,
And I think I shared this before we hopped onto the podcast, was that, I've been going through my own stuff and I've been going through my own stuff. And so it has caused me to double down on what I already know, what I know works, and making myself be my client. And, dropping into that breath work and that meditation when I'm literally emotionally and spiritually tapped out, where I'm like, okay, I'm done, screw this. And so, yeah, I mean, it's about remembering that you're having a human experience, having grace and compassion for yourself because you are a human being, um, and to take the tools that you already know and just remember and just, yeah, just drop into a deep breath or drop into, a walk outside to clear your brain or whatever. But yeah, no, I mean, it's not perfect. It never will be. And as much as we strive for fast and perfect and overnight success,
Mm,
that's not sustainable. It's not a sustainable way of walking through this journey of dancing through the journey, right? It's not. It takes practice, and it takes, inch by inch, step by step, every single day, and giving ourselves grace the
yeah.
whole way.
I
Yeah.
using that same analogy, I can't help but think of like going to, when I've gone out and I've been so focused on wanting to dance correctly that I won't do it. And it never fails that there's always that one individual that just don't give a fuck. They're not even dancing with the music. And like I'm sitting there like talking shit, but low key, I'm like, damn, that motherfucker's got some guts because he's just going in there and like living his fucking best life. Like he's just
Yeah.
doing it. And you're
Yeah.
right. And I think that sometimes even asking that question, like, what is it really about? What is it that's really stopping us? Obviously, it's not the fact that we have rhythm, because the people that don't have rhythm are still going in there dancing, right? So it's like, where's our hesitation? Who's told us we don't know how to dance? Who's told us that we shouldn't dance? Who's told us that we're wrong
Hmm.
for dancing or that we're not man enough? Like starting to ask those questions, and I really appreciate you taking the time to have the conversation, to educating me, to educating our community, and I think being an ally. We've talked a little bit about this too, and it's tough as someone that would consider himself to uphold still a lot of machista type of beliefs and tendencies and attitudes and maybe perspectives even sometimes. And I know that it's something that I want to change, and I know that there are more men like myself that are ready to break that. To have allies that are willing to show up with an open mind and an open heart, to challenge us and
Hmm.
to educate us and to really just show compassion is everything. So I want to
Yeah.
say thank you.
Mm.
Um, Before we end it, two things. Where can people find you? And before we get into that though, let's talk about August 19th.
Okay.
Now that
Awesome.
we've just suckered in all these guys to go, oh shit, I'm down to dance for a little while. What's going down August 19th?
Yeah, so we're running it back because we had such a huge success, and we feel the need and the importance of it, and we want to bring it back again. So we're doing same time, 1:30, same place, in Orange, and it's on August 19th, Saturday, August 19th, and we're doing it again. We're calling 20 men who are feeling the call to take that next right step into self-discovering. And that's basically what this is meeting yourself on a deeper level, so that you can kind of figure things out a little bit better, so that you can show up a little bit better for yourself or for your family, for your job. And so if you feel called to come and experience this with us, join us on August 19th. You can find me on Instagram on at Sounds of the Soul Healer, all one word. That's Sounds of the Soul Healer. Um, I'm only on Instagram right now, so you can find me there. And the link for this event is on Healing Connections, and it's at
Mhm.
Healing Connections on Instagram as well. So I don't know if you could link it in the
Yes.
show notes or anything like that. That would be great.
Yeah, so most of these guys are either here on YouTube or you guys are listening to us in your car or at home, wherever it might be. Tell your mans to come through. Tell them that we're just a bunch of dudes getting together trying to do something that's gonna help them. I think cope with things in a different way more than anything. Probably the
Yeah,
scars are already there, dude. The wounds are already there. They're not disappearing. I think we're just gonna try to give them the love that they need and try to cope with a lot of this in a different way where it's not as scary, because even embracing, like, I will say that going into this experience required a level of vulnerability that forced me to embrace, to not run from
hmm,
those feelings. And I remember you mentioning, kind of telling us like, when you guys start to feel like, if you feel inclined, feel. And like, fuck,
yeah.
man, I did not want to do that. And it was tough. I did. And I'm glad. It was very rewarding. And so, yeah, with that, again, I want to say thank you for joining us. We'll put the link. I'll have the link on our bio. I know Beatty's gonna have it under Healing Connections if you want to check it out over there. And we'll be posting it on our stories and on Instagram as the days get closer. Share it, at the very least.
Yeah.
Share it, man. Like I don't think you guys realize how much that really helps us out just to get the message across. We know that
Yeah.
you can't force anyone into this, but I always really believe that as a village, we can do our part to just leave those doors open, right? And to plant
Yeah.
those seeds. And I would hate for a gentleman not to be there because he never heard about it, right?
Mm.
So help us out, spread the word. If you know anybody that is interested or maybe isn't, tell them to send us a DM. I'll be more than happy to talk to him and figure out what's going on. So
Yeah.
shout out to my boy
Absolutely.
Son. I know he's got his stuff going on. Missed him today.
Yeah, we
Christine,
got to run it back with him because I want to hear his
I
experience.
know, I do too.
Yeah.
We'll run one, and I'll maybe I'll take the night off, and y'all can figure it out too. No, I'm just kidding. I'll join you. I'll join you guys, but I'll definitely we'll have to hear his experience, and he is okay. I did check in on him. He is fine. Nothing to worry about. Just had some personal stuff going on and couldn't make it. Um, but yeah, unless you have any last minute thought, Christine, I'm feeling good. My cup's full.
Yeah. I just want to say thank you for having me, for asking me to join you on the podcast. Again, it's my first podcast. It's so much fun.
Y'all stay tuned.
So
This is
thank you
Christine.
so much.
Of course, of course. Y'all stay. Hey, once you're ready, we'll be here. This is us manifesting it now in public. Just throwing it out
Yeah.
there.
I know. I know. I got you.
No
Thank
pressure. Do your
you.
thing. Do your thing. Do me a favor. If you could stay on once we finish this recording, that'd be great. I
Yeah.
appreciate y'all. Everyone have a good night. Have a good week. If you guys need anything from us, let us know, and we'll see you guys in 2 weeks.